The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
He's in a certain sense, it is about AI, but even more, it's about the human person. Because what AI does, it puts us in a position where we have to reclaim our humanity. That's the point of the encyclical. We have to, so there's a question of our identity. Who are we? Who are we? And then the second question is, what's been entrusted to us? And the third question is, where are we going to go with this? Where are we going to go with this? Those are really important questions, and it's not a critique of AI. AI is the product of human intelligence, and it is like everything else in this world. It is created good, but we live in a world that's also marked by sin, so it can go off course. And ultimately, we believe it can be redeemed in Christ. So, but that's a framework for everything. That's about us too. Yeah. But we're created good.
Good morning, welcome to Catholic Chicago. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, rector of the Cathedral in Chicago, and to my left, Mark Tracy, co-host. And we've been together for many, many years. And what you just saw in that last minute, we taped a program yesterday with Father Luke Camelli on the Pope's latest encyclical entitled Magnifica Humanity, referred to as Humanity with AI, in terms of what is AI all about. And it was a great clip in terms of what is AI, why AI in the future. And so along those lines, maybe we have now Mark do the introduction to our great guest this morning.
Sure. Artificial intelligence, AI, is changing the way we work, communicate, create, and even what it means to be human. With the recent release of the Pope's Encyclical, it's also prompting the Church to ask some profound moral and spiritual questions. Joining us in the studio today is Joe Vukov, Associate Professor of Philosophy at my alma mater, Loyola University, yes, and author of Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence. Today we'll discuss the Pope's vision for AI, the opportunities, the risk that this technology presents, and how we can make sure that even in an age of intelligent machines, we never lose sight of our own humanity. Joe Vukov, welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It would be Dr. Joseph Vukov, with a PhD from Fordham.
That's right.
Yeah.
In philosophy.
In philosophy.
And born and raised in Minnesota.
In Minnesota.
So people will hear a Jesuit-trained scholar.
And if you listen carefully, you might hear a little Minnesota accent creep out sometimes too. So.
And also you talked about, was it your grandpa maybe bought the first home in Woodridge?
That's the family lore. They were living in Berwyn, and the first home in Woodridge apparently was a Vukov house.
Out of curiosity, how far back does your ancestry go to Minnesota?
In Minnesota, just one generation. So we were a Chicago family, and my dad moved to Minnesota, and my mom's family's from Minnesota. So that my mom's side of the family goes way back in Minnesota.
How far back, like the 19th century?
Yeah, at least that.
Those were tough winters.
They continue to be tough winters in Minnesota, but tougher when there wasn't modern conveniences and heating and things.
Now, with your background in philosophy, Joe, what made you write the book entitled Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence? How did that come about?
Yeah, I think that from a philosophical point of view, the rise of artificial intelligence raises two, I think, really crucial questions that philosophers and Catholic philosophers are particularly well equipped to answer. The first one is that with artificial intelligence, for the first time, we're presented with a technology that mimics or mirrors or replicates or simulates our own humanity. So if you would have just
Now that's interesting.
yeah, if you would have just asked 10 years ago, could you ever have a computer write a poem that's as good as a poem I would write? You would have said, well, of course not. But now, of course, that's what AI can do in a heartbeat. Can you create a picture in the way that a human artist could create one? You would have said, well, no, but now all of a sudden an AI can do that. Now, I think there's room to discuss whether what it's doing is actually writing a poem in the strictest sense of writing a poem or creating a piece of art in the strictest sense of that. I think you might say, well, no, because writing a poem involves intentionality and meaning, and creating artwork has the same thing. So you might say, well, it's not really doing those things, but at the same time, it sure looks like it.
It mimics.
It mimics it. It certainly mimics it, and it mimics it very, very well.
So it was like literally a mockingbird is called a mockingbird.
It is.
Because it mimics other birds.
Exactly. It kind of replicates our own humanity back at us. And I think what that makes us do is to stop and pause and to ask ourselves, what is it that makes human beings distinctive to begin with? If now all of a sudden a machine can do something that looks a lot like what we can do, and we thought that's what made us distinctive, well, now it's not precisely that. But maybe if we dig a little bit deeper, we can figure out what is it that makes us distinctive and what makes a human being. And of course, I don't have to tell you that the Catholic intellectual tradition provides great resources for thinking through that. But I think that in an era of artificial intelligence, people are having questions about what makes us human in a much more pressing way than they were just 10 years ago because of this phenomena of AI replicating and mimicking our own humanity back to us.
Maybe a question, Joe, is, sorry, Mark.
Go ahead.
Is AI helping us lose our humanity?
I think it is. I think that it's not intrinsically a problematic technology, and in Magnifica Humanitas and in all the Vatican documents that have been, this is something that Magnifica Humanitas is obviously the largest document we've had so far, but there's been several papal addresses. There's been at least one document from a couple of the dicasteries that was released last year called Antiqua Nova that also grappled with artificial intelligence. And very consistently, those documents say, no, this is not intrinsically problematic. At the same time, I'm very convinced that if we adopt AI and other modern technologies unintentionally, it can lessen our humanity. I'll give you just one example that I think almost all of us have experienced. So if you're like me, when you get in your car and you're going someplace that you haven't been before, you immediately dial it into your GPS, right? What does that do? Well, it gets us where we're going much more efficiently. What else does it do? It divorces us from the world around us. So that you might have had this experience where you realize I'm going someplace that I've gone 5 times before, and I genuinely don't know where I'm going because all I've ever done is follow the GPS. And I think this is a very everyday sort of example that's very simple technology in some ways, one that we've been using for a long time. But I think a lot of areas where we invite modern technology and artificial intelligence into our lives, it can have a similar effect, where we realize that, oh, there was this one aspect of my humanity, whether it was a relationship, whether it was a connection with my environment, whether it was a way of understanding myself, that not that it was lost altogether, but it's atrophied, and I've lost a little bit of that. So I think we need to be very intentional when adopting new technologies, including AI, lest we sort of little by little lose various aspects of our humanity.
So you're a philosopher.
I am.
So what I would ask you is, who's your go-to philosopher? And what would they say about AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, honestly, this is maybe cheating a little bit.
That's all right.
But I've really
coming for the professor. The professor's cheating.
You gotta make sure you're clear if you're even bordering on cheating. You're a professor. No, so it's I really have lately been looking to the church for guidance. So I don't know if that's strictly calling the Holy Father a philosopher. But no, I think looking to the Encyclical, looking at some of these other documents, they've been really spectacular. They've been distilling church thought on these topics and putting it in really nicely packaged documents. So that's really where I've been looking to lately, is obviously taking my philosophical training in more, contemporary and broad ways of thinking philosophically, but then looking at how the church is thinking through these issues and then taking that as my starting point. So that's really been where I've been working with lately. And the good part is that the church has not been silent on these issues. In fact, it's been giving us lots and lots to think about. So I haven't been short for resources lately.
Now, I had one other question, because we were talking before the show. You have 4 children.
We do have 4 children.
AI. I see it with our grandchildren. How do you imagine AI either impacting their lives and also how they can manage as they grow into young people?
Yeah, I think that it's going to impact all of our lives in very significant ways, and I think it already is. I think it's really important to keep in mind that AI is not just ChatGPT writing essays or emails. AI is also getting integrated into management systems, it's getting integrated into healthcare systems, it's getting integrated into economic and finance systems. And whenever I talk to anyone in almost any sector, they say, oh, here's all these new tools that my company is using or my sector is using, and what do we do with this? This is a good thing or a bad thing. So I think AI, again, is not just sort of the flashy essay writing tools that we see. It's sort of these behind the scenes tools as well. So I think that as my kids grow, I think it will be increasingly like the way the internet pervades almost every corner of our lives. That's the experience they'll have of AI, right? Where it's not just I experience the internet when I log on to Google. It's that I experience the internet when I park my car, when I log into my bank and manage my account, sort of everywhere. And I think AI is increasingly going to be like that for them too, where it won't just be one thing that they interact with, it'll be everywhere. And it also will be something that they largely won't be able to avoid in the same way that we couldn't avoid the internet.
Why did the Pope write the encyclical?
Yeah, I think because of that, I think that it really is a monumental change that we're living through right now. When the Holy Father was initially elevated, he, in his very first address to the College of Cardinals, he explained why he chose the name Leo. And it was to indicate continuity with Leo XIII, who of course was
social justice.
Exactly, social justice. And our current Holy Father also said, I think that we are living through something as monumental as the Industrial Revolution, right? We're living through this cultural, economic, sociological shift, that monumental. And that might seem hyperbolic because, of course, the Industrial Revolution, I mean, you can't get much bigger than that. But I think he was absolutely spot on with that. I think that it is sort of this giant way of changing the way that we think about ourselves as individuals, the way we interact economically, the way we think about culture, and sort of all these different ways that AI is touching on us right now.
The Pope trying to be proactive and not reactive.
Exactly. He's being proactive, and I think it's working. So I think both he and the church as a whole have really emerged as thought leaders in thinking through these issues. Because I think that it's not just the church that has recognized how monumental these changes are. I think everyone kind of senses this. And the church has the resources to help, obviously, Catholics think through these changes. But I think what's really interesting is the way that the Encyclical and other people thinking with the church have found ways to connect with people outside the church too, and say, here's these ways of talking, these ways of thinking that might help us think through some of these changes in ways that are obviously very relevant to Catholics, but have really connected with non-Catholics as well.
Now, give people an insight into your book. Don't give them everything because you want them to. Where can they purchase the book?
Anywhere you can buy a book. So you can, look it up. It's available from my publisher, New City Press. But anywhere else you buy books, you should be able to find a copy.
Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence by Dr. Joseph Vukov, Vukov.
That's it.
So Amazon, or in the bookstore right now?
It's some bookstores. Probably online is going to be your best bet to find it. So what I really try to do is work through both the ways in which the Catholic intellectual tradition provides a way of thinking about our own humanity in a way that makes it clear why we're different than this thing that we've created. Which again, I think is something that is on people's minds now in a way it hadn't been previously. Of course, as a philosopher, in my intro to philosophy classes, what does it mean to be human? That's been our bread and butter for thousands of years.
More seminary days.
We're going to take a little break.
You bring back our seminary days.
Yeah, it sure does remind me of. We're going to take a little break.
Perfect.
Staying human in an era of artificial intelligence. When we get back, I'd like you to dig down with your book and say, how does it impact people in a parish? What can we do in a parish in terms of looking
Even
at
before we go to
these
the break, I remember philosophy.
Look at him.
I couldn't stand philosophy. I couldn't get it.
You can't escape it. You can't escape it,
And then
Father.
you
Here it is coming back.
I
I
had
only
Emmanuel-
showed up for half the classes.
No, that's great.
Emmanuel.
I think we have to take a
I had,
break.
wait, I had Emmanuel Kant. I had Emmanuel Kant. I would say, I can't understand him. Take a break.
With Catholic Chicago. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
The AI pool of knowledge is the product of millions, billions, trillions of bits of information that have been gathered from all over the world.
AI has this capacity to imitate a lot of human-like features. The key word there, though, is imitating. I'm an associate professor of philosophy at Loyola University, Chicago.
By this point, artificial intelligence, no doubt, has touched all of your lives.
In my book, Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence, I look at basically two different kinds of challenges that artificial intelligence raises to people generally and to Catholics specifically. The first is the challenge of understanding who we are, human nature, in the face of machines that we've created that replicate a lot of our human-like qualities. How do I understand what makes me me, what makes human nature distinctive, when all of a sudden now we have computer programs that are capable of writing essays, creating images, creating video? The second question is, how can we act humanely in a world that's now populated with artificial intelligences?
While technology certainly can connect us, it's not the same as being physically present. We need to use it wisely, without letting it overshadow our relationships.
Leo goes into this at great depth, that a human being is a person. We're not just a biological entity. I think it's wonderful that the Pope deals with this question so directly. I'm the rector-president at Mundelein Seminary. When we interact with another person, be that a priest or anybody else, that's always going to be different than our simply interacting with a warehouse of knowledge. As Pope Leo is doing, really right out of the gate, but he's really identified two main areas that I think we need to be aware of. The first is the sense that we should never let AI supplant or replace our exercise of our own intelligence, our own emotions. We need to think, we need to work that muscle, so to speak. And the other area of concern really has to do with representation. The danger that AI could somehow represent itself as another unique human being, and we could be tricked or fooled by that.
AI is in fact a tool at the end of the day. It's a really fancy tool, it's a sophisticated tool, but it's a tool. One rule for engaging with any tool is that you understand what it is that you're working with when you're using it.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
So should Catholics be afraid of AI? I would say no, not inherently. As with any new technology, it can be misused, it can be abused. So you're really basically going back to fundamental questions of ethics.
The more that we hold fast to our traditions and really understand what it means to be human from a Catholic perspective, I think that will serve us tremendously well, even in and especially in an era of artificial intelligence.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sackwitz, Mark Teresi here with Dr. Joe Vukov, Associate Professor of Philosophy, Loyola University, author of Staying Human in the Era of Artificial Intelligence. Father Greg.
Joe, is an outstanding 3-minute clip with you and Father John Carci.
Thank you, Father.
And I guess my question is, that was answered by Father Carci, is, should we be afraid of AI? What's your response?
I think afraid would be too much. I do think we should be cautious of AI. I think that, as we were talking about earlier, I think there is potential for AI to dehumanize us in significant ways. We've already seen this with the internet and social media. There's the tendency to swap out in-person relationships for online relationships, which of course is not intrinsically immoral, but I also don't have to give you an argument that an online relationship is a little less human than an in-person friendship. And I think AI has many of those capacities as well, and maybe even more so than 2000s era internet kinds of applications. The more that we rely on AI to compose our documents, our emails for us, does that help us have a more efficient workday? Well, sure, but it also eliminates an aspect of communication that we previously had. The more that we allow AI to even things like give us recommended products on Amazon or recommended next videos on YouTube. This, of course, is a version of AI as well. That's fine, nothing intrinsically problematic with that, but notice what that does. The more that I rely on an algorithm to give me a recommended product or video, the less I rely on a friend to recommend what I should watch or what I should buy. So I think that there is this real potential of AI to dehumanize us in ways that are a little bit here, a little bit there. There's nothing intrinsically problematic with any of those steps, but if we're unintentional taking each of them, pretty soon we've taken so many little steps, we look back and realize we've left big chunks of our humanity behind.
Now, before Mark gets to his question, I need to follow up with this, Joe. We were talking this yesterday with Father Lou Camelli. I've been to restaurants where I've seen young people eating their meal, texting, but they're texting each other. Number two, Mark and I will walk downtown around here often from one meeting to another, and everybody walking on their cell phone like this. They'll walk by you like you don't even exist. Thirdly, when Mark and I was young, because we're much younger than you, in fact, I'm your father's age, and
we're much older than you. You said young.
Oh no, yeah, we're much. No, we are much
Nice
older.
try.
Yeah, nice slip there. Is I go be outside with my buddies playing football, baseball, basketball. It seems like young people today want to stay home and play video games, or their games on the computer. So is the whole world of AI, computers, technology isolating us?
I think it absolutely is. And I think that you've identified both the symptom and also the cure. So I think that we see the symptom of our isolation in exactly what you're talking about, where we see other people, and if we're honest, sometimes ourselves, a little bit too much on our screens, a little bit too much on our computers, too dialed into life online and too dialed out of life in person. And again, is there anything intrinsically immoral with that? Well, no, there's nothing intrinsically immoral with spending too much time on my phone. At the same time, does that take away from these shared human experiences? I think any of us who have tried to sit down to dinner with friends or family and they all want to be on their phones can just resoundingly say, well, obviously it does. So what's the solution? I think in many ways it's more intentional engagement or potentially intentional disengagement with technology, where we say we're not going to have screens at the table. I could catch up with this friend by text or on social media, but I'm going to get a coffee with my friend because that's a more human thing to do. So I think that sort of looking back to previous forms of human engagement, which in many ways were previous not that long ago. I mean, I grew up in the 90s and we didn't have social media and phones then either. And thinking about how can I not take technology into my life in this way and instead be more intentional and more human about it. That's not a technological naysaying, right? It's not saying there's something that I'm never going to use it or never going to deal with it. It's rather just making sure that when we do deal with it, we're doing it in human ways, in ways that aren't detracting from ways that we actually want to flourish.
Now, I just thought of this. Explain to our folks why AI could not write your book.
Yeah, good. So it's a
That's
really
a great question.
It is a
Mark.
great
I just thought of
question.
it.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's maybe a little more complicated than it first looks, because there's one sense in which if AI couldn't write the whole thing now, I wouldn't be surprised if you give it 5 years,
They'll pick that up.
it could do something like this, right? One thing that I've learned talking about AI now is never say never, right? Never say it's not going to be able to do this, not going to be able to do that, because you give it 5 years or 5 weeks, and all of a sudden it can do that thing. So in one sense, it could write this book, right? It could at least in the near future, churn out a book, maybe not word for word, but something very similar to it. What it couldn't do, though, is sit down with intentionality, with a life that's been lived, with a desire to communicate, sort of all these things that I bring to writing a book, that we bring to writing an email, that we bring to our communication in general. That's actually the human element behind it. So here's I think a helpful analogy. Could AI write a thank you note to my mom when she sends me $20 for my birthday, something like that? It obviously could, right? It's at that level right now. And let's say even word for word, it's the same. Let's say it's even a little better than the note I would have written, right? It can already do that. Does that mean that it's actually writing a thank you note to my mom? Well, no, right? The whole reason for writing a thank you note is the intentionality, the meaning, the time you've taken to writing that thing. Like that's the words that actually get written. They tend to be kind of boring, right? I mean, thank you notes are kind of boilerplate. The thing that I'm actually doing is an act of personal communication. And I think that sort of once you start analyzing what exactly you're doing when you write a book, when you write an email, when you create an image, when you write a poem, actually becomes clear fairly quickly that AI can do it in one sense, but in a deeper sense, it actually isn't doing the thing at all.
I like that. A question I asked Father Lou Camille yesterday, or a comment I made was, I don't know the source, but a group of scientists created an AI program they felt was becoming way too dangerous. They went to unplug it, undo it, destroy it, and it would not allow it to happen. It would, like had its own mind. Now, am I making this up, or is this true?
Yeah, no, there's cases like this where you see AIs responding to threats, if you want to call them that, in ways that seem very human and also very unpredictable. So yeah, it's an interesting phenomena, and it's something that I think shows us two things. Number one, it's one of these other occasions for us to reflect on what makes humans unique. So here you have an AI engaging in something very human-like. If somebody told us they were shutting us down, we would also respond pretty negatively. And now all of a sudden you have a machine doing that in a way that wasn't programmed to do. So again, it kind of returns us.
That to me is actually scary.
It is scary. It is scary. And I think that it requires us to think through, well, what is it that makes humans distinctive? And again, the Catholic tradition provides just tons of resources for thinking through what makes us distinctive. It's also, I think, a good cautionary note to make sure that sort of as we're building these things, we see ways in which they can act unpredictably, act in their own self-interest, for lack of better words, and take that to mind as we're developing them. So yeah, I think it's a really important cautionary note that those kinds of cases sound as well.
You're trained in Ignatian spirituality. How does that fit into this whole AI issue?
Yeah, no, it's another great question. Ignatian spirituality is big on discernment, discerning consolation and desolation, in the words of Ignatius. But I think that skill of discernment and careful discernment is just going to be really crucial for us as a church, as leaders, as policymakers, but also maybe more importantly, individually, as we're thinking through where to invite technology into our lives, where to enact policy. So again, sort of all sorts of different levels. So at the individual level, but also at the level of leadership. I just think discernment is going to be a really crucial step, because it's not one of these cases in which the church has or likely will say, here's exactly where the line to draw is. It's just not an ethical issue like that kind. So what does that mean? It means that there's going to be a lot of careful discernment that's necessary on the part of faithful Catholics to figure out where the line should be drawn in different cases. So that's one place where I think Ignatian spirituality has a lot to offer.
And I know we need to bring the program to a close on that note. I want to thank in a very special way Dr. Joseph Vukov, Associate Professor of Philosophy at Loyola University of Chicago and author of Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence. And again, one more time, where people can get your book, Joe?
from my publisher, New City Press, or again, anywhere you buy books, it's going to be available there.
You've been outstanding,
Thank you, Father.
outstanding
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
guest, and also Loyola University is lucky to have you in the
They sure
Department
are.
of Philosophy,
Yeah, thank you.
which I walk by quickly in that department, but it's
He'd be a tough student, but you're making it real.
Good job.
I- I
Real for
think-
me.
Thank you.
And thanks also to co-host Mark Teresi, great friend, and to our producer, director, choreographer, the whole group, Michael May and Clint Cottrell. To all of you, our listeners, may God bless you and continued summer blessings. Amen.